Troy Miller is with me, my old producer, director. I don't recall all your titles you had. Writer, we worked together. Researcher.
Editor.
You helped me do the last edition of Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight. You helped me rewrite that book.
We worked on the Hidden History series together.
Yeah, early on. Yep, absolutely. Troy, by the way, is running for the State House. It's called the House of Delegates in West Virginia. You are an at-large delegate for West Virginia here to the Democratic Convention Party, whatever you call it.
And I'm also our standing platform committee member for the next 4 years. So I was the West Virginian who helped bring together the Democratic platform as it exists right now.
That's great. That's great. It's been a couple of years since we were in the same town together. It's great to have you here with me on this side of the camera instead of the other side where you always used to be.
Yep.
Troy, by the way, his website is troyforwv.com. TROYFORWV.com, and his Twitter handle is Troy N, like Nicholas, Troy N Miller. Right, right there you go. So that's all that stuff. Your thoughts on, well, first of all, tell me about West Virginia politics. What's going on in West Virginia?
Well, I'll start off by saying there is the traditional myth that we are a very conservative state. It's a red state. We're the Trumpiest state in the country, all of this. And to that, I will just simply say, look at how much money the Americans for Prosperity, for instance, the Republicans have to pour into our state in order to keep it that way. They don't believe that it's as conservative as they say they are, as they say we are. If they did, they wouldn't spend the money they are putting into it. And now we need national Democrats all around to help us get some money here. Part of our problem is that our erstwhile Democratic U.S. senator from the state, Senator Joe Manchin, he led the party, and in a way that left the party hollowed out, if I'm going to be completely frank.
Yeah.
We have a lot of first-time candidates, which is both really exciting, but also very daunting. We have there's a lot of great stuff going on within the West Virginia Democratic Party right now, and part of it is we have, last time I talked with you just a few weeks ago here, we talked about the West Virginia Democratic platform and the centrality of a 21st century economic Bill of Rights to all of that, which is for, all of this, but the audience, that is based on FDR's second Bill of Rights that he introduced in his State of the Union speech in 1944, which was itself based on the four freedoms that he had enumerated before that, which we have basically heard a lot about all through this convention.
When he introduced the four freedoms, he said, his economic Bill of Rights, he said, a necessitous man is not a free man, quoting the old English judge, that you're not free if you're hungry, you're not free if you're homeless, you're not free if you don't have health care.
Exactly.
Pardon the interruption, but, it's ties right into this whole freedom frame that has become the core, the foundation of the Harris campaign.
And it is. I'm a little exhausted. I'm very excited after the last few days here. And the part of my excitement is that we are talking about freedom. I wrote an essay back in last November that was just simply called, "In West Virginia, Democrats are fighting for real freedoms." And it was put it up at the Daily Coast, put it up on my Substack, tried to get it out to as many outlets as possible. And it is very... I was never going to vote for anyone but a Democrat in this election cycle anyway, but hearing the National Democratic Party talking in these terms in no uncertain way, and talking about how, in no uncertain terms, when we have economic royalists, when we have oligarchs be able to buy our elections, for instance, when they're stealing our wages, again, they are stealing our freedoms when push comes to shove. A very concrete example I will give is our current governor, Jim Justice, and a U.S. Senate candidate. He's a Republican. He was a Democrat. He was a Republican before that. He was a billionaire, but I would call him both morally and financially bankrupt. He was just in the last couple of days, there was a report that came out that said that the employees of the Greenbrier Hotel are likely to lose their health care in the next week or two because... first of all, he has run that hotel into the ground, which is...
His family owns it?
Yes. And the Greenbrier, for those who don't know, is also it's probably most famous as the hotel where, if there were, in the event of a nuclear war throughout the Cold War, the entire U.S. government was going to be placed over there.
Oh, really?
It has
Is there like an underground
shelter.
bunker?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
And
which had to help him and his family out a little bit with some government money.
Well, he wasn't the owner then.
That's interesting.
But he has basically stolen the employees' wages for their health care and not put it towards their health care.
Right.
And still has managed to bankrupt that hotel. It is likely to go up to auction within the next month.
Is he just sticking the money in his pocket?
Who knows? I mean, one would assume that's how one becomes allegedly a billionaire.
Yeah.
And the same thing with our former president and current convicted ex-president Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Right? There's really nothing there except for a lot of debt and bluster.
Yeah. Yeah. Stealing from the employees. So and
which steals their freedoms, you know. If
to bring it back
around to where I started that story.
There you go. Yeah. So I'm curious, just kind of anecdotally or peripherally or whatever, what do you think is going to happen to your current senator? You know, it's Mr. Manchin.
That's a good question, and I don't think. I mean, based on how he's been behaving in the last few months, it's hard to know. I mean, he thought about running for president when there was that brief moment before that he did a whole exploratory run. He has a PAC now. He's an independent, so I don't really care, if I'm going to be completely honest.
He's not running for governor.
He is not running for governor.
He was the governor at one point.
He was the governor, yes. And when Senator Robert Byrd passed, he then became our U.S. senator. There was an appointment to, I believe the man's name was Cart Goodwin. And
who was a placeholder, basically.
He was a placeholder, yes. Yeah. And what I will say about and Senator Manchin, I'm unlike a lot of people, I do not want to belittle him, bash him. I don't want to be harsh on him. I think his generally, I don't agree with most of his stances and everything like this, but I do think he has tried to do what he thinks is best. And I will say the Inflation Reduction Act is like
he voted for it.
He introduced it. He drafted it. He came when he shot down Build Back Better because it was going to drive up inflation and all of this. We were very active, and at the time I was with our good friends at Social Security Works. We were very active pushing him to say, if you're really concerned about inflation, you have to take on the type of inflation and greed that is killing West Virginians, 90% of whom are either on a prescription drug or live in a household with somebody on a prescription drug. And when you look at prescription drug prices, and the inflation that goes on year after year after year, it doesn't matter whether we have low inflation rate or a high inflation rate across the economy, pharmaceutical drug prices always outpace that. So now we have Medicare able to negotiate the drug prices for 10 specific drugs. That's not enough, but it opens the door.
It's 5 more every year, isn't it?
I think so.
Like
and once the reality is, if we can negotiate drug prices for a single drug, we can negotiate drug prices for every single drug. And the door is open, and we are caught up with the rest of the world. And fewer West Virginians are going to go bankrupt. Fewer West Virginians are going to die because of the Inflation Reduction Act. So, again, I don't really care what Joe Manchin does after his term expires. I appreciate that he introduced that bill. I think Build Back Better would have been a better bill, and he should have supported that. But more than that, he is no longer a West Virginia Democrat, and we are here, and I'm proud to be here as a West Virginia Democrat, to tell our own story for the first time that in decades that we've been able to, because it's either the Republicans who for the last 14 years have had more and more control of the state after 80 years of almost complete Democratic rule in the state. And we do have to be fully honest. That was 80 years where the Democrats in the state did not fully deliver for the people, right? But I also don't think it's any coincidence that in 2010, Citizens United came down. And
there were a lot of Dixiecrats kind of in there, too.
Yes.
You know? I mean, there was, Robert Byrd turned out to be a good guy, but he didn't start out that way.
No, he was a member. I mean, he was a member of the Klan. But he also was one of the few senators who opposed the invasion of Iraq on a constitutional basis. Yeah. And he did come around. And You know, I'm not going to be an apologist for anybody who was a member of the Klan, but I think he was very clear by the end of his life that he regretted
he
that
apologized
affiliation.
for it, repeatedly and profusely. Troy N. Miller over on Twitter. Troy Miller running for the West Virginia House of Delegates, District 98. Check it out, troy4wv.com. Troy, it's always great to see you.
It's so good to see you in person, Tom. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. It's an honor, in fact. Keep up the great work.
Thank you.
We'll be back with, I'll be picking up your calls and also some thoughts on the convention. Stick around.